for our community and for our country. There we go. And doing positive things means that we're taking responsibility for ourselves to engage the process. You and I are taking that responsibility. We cannot sit around and just complain. We can no longer sit around and say, this is what Black people need to do. Black people need to work together. Black people need to get together. Every one of us who is of some relative conscience have said that at least one time. At least once. And if you hadn't said it, you certainly thought it. And if you haven't thought it, you heard somebody say it. And no truer statement can be made. We can have all of these outlets. We can have all of the podcasts. We could have all of the radio shows. We could have all of the different outlets. You could have millions, hundreds of thousands of viewers and all of that, right? But if you are operating in a silo, according to the words of Stokely Carmichael, and I like to remind myself of this, and I'm reminding us of this, no matter how successful you are, no matter how far you have advanced, you did not do it on your own. And Stokely Carmichael said that no Black person in this country makes any advancement solely based on his or her talent or worth. All individual advancement is based on mass struggle. We make no progress in this world without shedding our blood. Therefore, brothers and sisters, your advancement and success does not belong to you. It belongs to the people. And if you do not use your success or advancement for the benefit of your people, it's a betrayal of the people who shed their blood for you. That's where you and I are. We don't have the luxury of individualism. Now, this is not saying that you don't enjoy your advancement or your success. It's not saying that at all. What it is saying is that where you are in your advancement in life or your success is because of the commitment and sacrifice of millions of people that you will never know their names, who struggled, whose backs scrubbed streets, water hosed, hung, lynched, burned, and continue that fight and struggle for you to advance, to have the opportunity to advance, for you to compete, for any of us. So the words of Stokely Carmichael could not be more true and impactful. That in order for us to move forward, we have got to do the one thing that we have never, ever done. And that is to abandon disorganization, to arrest disorganization, and to commit ourselves to being organized one to the other for the sole purpose of making certain that others in our diaspora have a greater opportunity to succeed, and they too can help. And they too can help lift. You see, today, we are not making the strides and advancements that we should be making, not based solely on someone who may be legislating away from us or legislating disproportionate to others, or even somebody who is willfully using their power to disinvest in opportunities where our people live, to not invest in the school systems, to not invest in the public health areas that are needed for a healthy community, to not provide access to good, healthy environments and healthy food outlets. Yes, there may be people who may be making legislation that in a very unsubtle way or a very subtle way, but we have the power or the access to the power to transform those very things that we call reparations. You see, because I consider reparations to include a robust, strong public education system in our communities, that every school is a state-of-the-art learning facility for our children. Every school in our community has every resource that it needs in order to provide the most excellent foundation of education for our children. That's a part of reparations to me. Part of reparation means making sure that every child and every parent has access to good health care in our communities. That's second to none. That's a part of reparations. Making sure that every person who has a desire and can show the wherewithal that they want to be in business, have access to capital, and have access to the opportunity to do and start that business. That is a part of reparation to me. See, reparations to me is more than somebody just saying, give everybody a check, which is a component of reparations. I'm not excluding that, but I want you to hear me. Please hear me and hear me clear. That I am in no way, shape, or form discounting any part of reparation that so many people have been fighting for and continue to fight for and advocate for. In no way, shape, or form. I'm simply saying that these things, which I'm sure many people have been talking about, these are a part of that. And I'm going to get to what I'm talking about on how we make that happen, regardless of political persuasion. Regardless of political persuasion. The way that we are able to make reparations real, and we can make reparations real. Whether there are people who are in the public spaces of our legislatures agree or disagree, not the point. The point is that any of those issues, whether it be education, whether it be housing, mental health, whatever it is, business opportunities, governmental contract access, whatever it may be, we have everything available to us to advocate for, to demand, and to ultimately receive what it is that we demand. I'm not even using the word fight, because to fight means that we have to be against something. Just follow my train of thought through this. What I am saying is, because we have the strength, because we have the resources to become a mighty force of advocacy for our communities here in Chicago, in Cook County, and in the state of Illinois, and by extension, we can be an example for the rest of the country on what a tool of being organized and committed to working together, what that tool can provide and what it actually looks like. We cannot allow for fear or excuses of any kind to stand in our way, because any excuse that gets in our way is one that we put there. However, if we organize ourselves together, if we bring ourselves together in a unified force, the definition of organize, the very definition of organize, is an adjective. It says to arrange in a systematic way on a large scale. To systematically arrange ourselves on a large scale. And what's that large scale? Is because we have more than 800,000 people in Chicago. 600,000 of them are registered voters in Chicago. In the county of Cook, in the landscape of the county of Cook, we exceed 1.5 million. Imagine if we, each one of us, committed ourselves to talking to the people where we are, right where you are, every day that we're organizing. The infrastructure, 10 by 10 to win, is the infrastructure. That is the political action arm for which we all converge together to be supportive of every area of reparation. I'm using the term reparation because I believe that education, health, housing, economics, All of those are a part of reparation. I think the approach that we go at it, it has to come through the people. It is not coming through or by the legislature. It will come as a result of the people, and it will only come as the result of organized, committed Black people who care about the advancement of our communities. That is how it's going to happen. So, if we are to organize, if we were to organize a basis of our community, a basis of our community, if we were to organize just a basis of our community, so that when the group that leads in any particular area, from education to economics, when they're advocating for whatever area that is, as the political arm for the Black diaspora, whether you're in organization education, I'm just using organization economics, organization health, organization mental health, organization criminal justice reform, whatever the organization name that you're in and the work that you are doing, leading that area, and you go to a city council person, a mayor, a Cook County commissioner, a Cook County board president, a state representative, a state senator, or a United States congressperson, or a United States senator, our representatives, that when you are meeting or you are testifying before them, they know that there are thousands of people standing with and behind you, watching to making sure. They know that. And as a result of them knowing that we have organized like we've never done before, you will see the very people that we may not like or may not necessarily think highly of in terms of being representative of the interests of our communities. You will see a shift in how they respond and respect what we are now advocating for. The same thing that we were advocating before. The difference is that we have an organized basis to confront it. And that organized basis, where that one voice is speaking on behalf of the whole, and those people who are serving in those public offices that are representing the interest for our communities now have to be compelled to deliver. And if they don't deliver, if they can't deliver, for whatever the reasons are, then those are not public representatives that we can afford, because they basically have said to us, I can't do the job. If you have a business and you hire employees, you pay them, one, to come to work. You pay them to do a job. And if that employee is not able to do the job, to produce what you pay them to produce, then you can't keep paying someone who is not capable of doing the job. You have to get somebody who is capable of doing the job. And so when a representative represents that they can't do the job, we have to replace them with someone who can do the job and can deliver and get it done. That's what those are the solutions. But that will only come through and by our being organized together. We cannot sit and complain about anything in earnest if we are not willing to do what we need to do to put ourselves in the position to change it. And we can't give it lip service. And we can't have this attitude, I've got mine, you get yours. That cannot be. Because there are many who are doing well individually, but those of us who are doing well individually that really care about lifting our communities cannot be satisfied. You cannot be satisfied with your individual success or advancement. You cannot have peace going home every night, going to bed, getting up, thinking about what you're going to do with your advancement and success. You cannot be satisfied when there are so many people, so many areas of our communities that are disinvested, misrepresented, or not represented at all in terms of equity. You cannot go home and go to bed and wake up every day content with those conditions. Doesn't mean you can't enjoy life, but we don't have the luxury that other communities have in individualism. We don't have that luxury. Nor should we really think much about it. Considering the conditions that many of our communities are challenged with. And those are only going to be responded to by mass engagement. That's the only way that you and I are going to be able to solve problems. That is the number one solution to getting to other solutions. And the number one solution is you and I have to commit. We have to make a pledge to ourselves that we are going to engage. And I am going to do all that I can, each one of us. I am going to do all that I can to get this message to the people who are closest to me and to people who trust me, people who will listen, people who will give an audience. That this is what we need to do, and it needs to happen in a short order. We should make a commitment that by spring of 2025, that we are going to have not less than 20,000 people that have made the pledge to commit ourselves together. Now, committing ourselves doesn't always mean that you have to go stand before and give testimony or anything. That the person who is standing and the person who is representing the whole, providing or giving the presentation or speaking or giving the testimony before any of these chambers of government, whether it be at the city council, whether it be at the Cook County Board, whether it be at the General Assembly, whether it be at the Chicago Public School Board, whatever the outlet is, the one person speaking, but there are many voices behind supporting that person, so that all of those agencies know that this is a 10 by 10 to win representative of their educational arm. We can't just sit back, play on our phones, and let them go through the motions and not hear their concerns and respond to their demands. That's the power of just committing to be supportive. So your joining forces doesn't mean that you have to get up and go make a lot of noise. It simply means that you identify with a group of people like you that are supporting fundamental basic issues for the liberation of our communities. And sometimes that's just showing up, not uttering an audible word, but you utter so much more when you show up and your presence is there along thousands of others, that you have occupied your space and there's no gap where your space is, because you have filled the gap. And if we use that theory over and over again, filling the gap, standing behind those people who are advocating for the betterment of our communities, we cannot lose. We cannot lose. So if we are losing, then we are losing because we are not in the game. The only way that we lose the game is we're not on the field and we're not organized in the game, because we can be undefeated. Nobody can defeat us when we bring ourselves together institutionally. We cannot be defeated because we are not getting into and engaging this way to be against anybody. We are engaging ourselves amongst each other to be for our communities holistically, to make sure that our communities have every resource and everything it needs in order to be successful as any other community in Chicago or Cook County or the state of Illinois or the country, for that matter. That's what we must do. Not allow for ourselves to be our own problem. The only ones that can defeat us is us. Now we've got to let our egos go. Because what good is it to hold on to a posture of saying, hey, I'm going to do my thing, and nobody knows it? Hasn't impacted anybody but you. But you got a title. What good is that? What good is the title if it doesn't serve to lift the life and lives of people who are struggling, to bring poor people out of poverty into a healthy middle class where they can provide for themselves, their family, and take their children on a vacation, save money to send their children to college, buy a home with comfort. There is nothing more rewarding than being able to provide something to someone that couldn't get it or that didn't get it. But there's nothing more powerful than challenging, demanding our political infrastructure that they have to deliver. And if they don't deliver, thank you very much for your service. Thank you very much for your honesty that you weren't able to deliver. And we'll have to bring somebody else in that can and will deliver. When we do that, we'll send a new message, and we're going to have to send a message. We'll send a message to the status quo, that the status quo is no longer acceptable. It's no longer acceptable. The way that the Black community exists is no longer tolerable, is no longer acceptable. It will never, ever be accepted, and we're not going to sit by and wait patiently anymore. What we're going to do is execute our plan. And what our plan is that we're organizing ourselves together, that we will be able to slate and select and elect representatives who will be able to deliver in those chambers. Now, you may ask the question, well, okay, let's say we elect one or two people. How's that going to change anything? One, if we decide on two offices or two representative positions, and we're organized now, keep in mind, none of this happens unless we're organized. And being organized means that we got the numbers. So I am speaking in the mindset that we have organized, right? So we've organized, we have the numbers, we have the strong ground game, and we're going to target two representative offices that doesn't seem to know their way, that have not complied, that have not been able to deliver. And we, as the political arm of 10 by 10 to win, we have discussed, we have determined, we have selected and slated two people for those positions. We've made that decision because we've had our own internal process, and then we've had our own internal vote, and these are the people that came forth with the majority. And so they came forth with the majority. Now, those are going to be the candidates. We go do the work, we get the signatures that they need to make sure they get on the ballot, and we have the resources to fund their campaign. Why? Because as an organized political action committee of 200,000 people, at $5 a month, we raise $1 million a month, $12 million a year. We can provide resources for their campaign. And as we grow in numbers, that commitment gets stronger. So we have all the resources that we need to run a campaign, to hire the consultants, to hire the attorneys, whatever the needs are to run an effective campaign. As a result of each one of us paying $5 a month, which is not overtaxing anybody, but we're able to raise a lot of resources so that we can properly fund the campaigns of those that we have slated through our own democratic process. And once we've done that, we then run those candidates. We have a strong ground game, and we can go and elect them. We elect those two people, those two positions by our political action arm, 10 by 10 to win, made that declaration. And we were able to target 2 representative seats and win those 2 seats by electing the people that we have selected, slated, and elected. What that does is it brings about a new level of respect for the Black diaspora here in Chicago and Cook County and in the state of Illinois that has been counterfeit for so long. That counterfeit will no longer have its ability. As a result of that, we now become widely, as a community of Black voters, there is a different level of respect that now has been afforded to our communities. Why? Because we did what we needed to do to strengthen ourselves. That's precisely what it means. That's precisely why I said it is entirely up to us. It is not available or up to anybody else. It's entirely up to you, and it's entirely up to me. We can do these shows and talk about funny stuff and football and baseball and basketball and all of that, and sit around and have analysis about why this team didn't win, or why the Bears are not doing better, or whoever Caleb, whoever the quarterback is, whatever. We can sit around and have all those conversations. Guess what? At the end of the day, it has not impacted your life. It has not improved the life of somebody who needed help. And there are too many people in our communities need help. Our children need help. The children's parents need help. Families need help. The way that we help them is not by going to them individually, which we can do. The way that we can help them is by making sure that the infrastructure is undergirded for our entire communities, from education to economics and everything in between. Everything in between. That's what we must do if we are going to elevate ourselves. I don't care about well, let me put it this way, because I do care. So let me put it this way. Because there may be a different outcome and a different administration going into on the national level, and because there may be people on a local level that may be in positions of power, it does not render us powerless. In fact, the more that we're willing to organize, the more powerful collectively we are. And we will be able to demonstrate that to ourselves. It'll be self-evident if we're willing to do the one simple thing that we need to do, and that is to join with each other collectively with a collective agenda. And that agenda is one thing. And that one thing is, I am going to become a part of the we. I will no longer run along as I will join the we. I suggest singular, alone, by oneself. So we're going to become the we, the capital W, the capital E. And boy, when we do that, I am telling you, I don't care what it is that you are thinking about or what your interests are, we will be successful with and on all of our behalves. We will be successful. But it's going to require that we abandon the practices of the past, that we get and clear our minds of every negative thought, rationale of why not to do it, and to just do it. As the old Nike saying, just do it. And boy, the more we do it, the more we motivate others, the more that we encourage other people to do it, the more that we live out this mission. And the mission is for the behalf of our people. It is not for an individual personality. It's not for my personality. It's not for an individual personality. It's for all of the diaspora of us. Certainly we can walk with our heads up as we should, but we also can walk a little bit with our chest spoke out. Why? Because the work that is being done, we can see and measure that lives are being changed. Communities are being invested in. Communities are becoming more desirable. Black communities are being invested in, and people who are Black are coming back to those communities. They want to be in their communities because the community is reviving and it's going to thrive. But that's going to take all of us to do it. It's going to take all of us. And believe me, there are things that are happening that we have to put the horse blinders on. We have to get focused on the direction that we want to go in and stay focused on that mission, not on the clutter, not on the noise, but focus on the direction, on the mission in front of us. I heard it put this way, talking about being focused, that if you want to get downtown and you're out on 99th Street off the expressway and you're trying to get downtown to City Hall, and you get on the expressway, your mission is to get to 118 North Clark Street, to get down to City Hall. Well, that's the county side, 121 North LaSalle, just to be technical. But that is what your mission is. You get on at 99th and the Dan Ryan and you start downtown. If you start focusing on every piece of paper and litter that is on the side of the road, if you start focusing on every piece of garbage that's on the side of the road, and you are trying to get downtown, you're never going to make it downtown because you've lost your focus. Your focus is somewhere else. In other words, no matter what is going on in this cycle, no matter what, no matter how aggrieved that we are about the outcome of this election, it is now what it is. However, most of what is going to happen to us is going to happen through our local governments, city, county, state. We got to be focused. Got to put the clutter blindfolds on so that we can be focused on the mission together. I have to be focused on the mission, standing side of you to make sure that you got the best shot, and so forth and so on. We can address all of these ills by simply bringing ourselves together, simply organizing ourselves together. We can deal with all of these areas of concern. I said to you, I want to have this conversation. And I want you to call me at 951-221-8221. Call me, and I'm asking you to agree that if you have not committed yourself, agree that you're committing yourself as of today, and that you're going to go and you're going to get others, like-minded people, to agree with you, for us to grow by measure, to us to expand our tent throughout the South, throughout the West, throughout the suburbs, wherever we are, that we become a strong Black voice that is able to advocate to every public office position of mayor, alderperson, Cook County Board President, Cook County Board Commissioners, the Attorney General, the State's Attorney, the Governor, the Lieutenant Governor, all of these areas, we will have the enormous power. And it is going to be a surprise to some. Some maybe or try to ignore it, but you can't ignore You can't ignore that kind of power if we build it to the tune and to the place that I know that we can. Cannot be ignored, and we cannot fail. We cannot fail. So again, this program is about doing all that we can to encourage us to take the necessary steps that we need to take to strengthen ourselves as a community of independent Black voters who are concerned about the conditions of our communities holistically. And in that we are concerned about those conditions, we're going to do something about it. We're going to do what we need to do in order to impact those kinds of changes that we need to do. That's what we are going to do. So I am asking you, call me at 951-221-8221. That we have the massive cross collaboration, that we bring as many of the organizations that we are a part of. And I'm told that we have in the city of Chicago, maybe more, maybe a little less, that there are at least 6,000 Black organizations. 6,000, maybe more. But what we need to do is to figure out how we can talk and we can collaborate and people can see the vision of what a collaborative body of organized, independent Black voters. Then you have some people who will say, well, that sounds good, but I just can't see it. Understand. I understand that. But people who cannot see does not mean that there is not something there to see. And people who are blind, visually blind, they can't see. You know what they do? They have something called a walker's guide. And sometimes they have a person that they hold on to their arm just to guide them. Not to take them, but to guide them. All I'm saying is that if there are people who say, I can't see, be willing to line up with someone who can see. And they will lead you into the light that you too will be able to experience and see. Again, nothing else matters. Nothing else matters. Now, you can try and continue to try to do all those things, and you should continue working. If you're working on different initiatives that are important to our communities, you should continue to work on them. You should continue to work on them. I'm simply saying that we cannot expect differently if we are not willing to do differently. If we are not willing to engage ourselves in the way that we must in order for us to make the kinds of radical strides that we can make for our communities. What are we saying to ourselves? That we're not willing to do that. If that is the case. Now look, those of you who follow this program and participate with this program, you and I have a responsibility to reach others, to get them to join the conversation, to become a part of the, as Mike Burry say, the collaboration. We're all a part of an extension. And the more of us that come together, the more of us that says, you know what, I'm going to keep working, but I am going to be an example to somebody who is watching me of what we need to do. And if we keep repeating that attitude, we keep repeating that kind of activity, even the people who are standing on the sidelines at some point are going to be compelled to come on in, because nobody, especially in our community, want to be left out. None of us want to be left out. Might not want to be the first to the dance floor, but we want to get on the dance floor. So there's always room. And we excitingly accept and look for others to do that. But in order for others to do it, we got to be the lead. We have to be the example. You have to be the example in the area where people trust you. You have to be that example. You have to show an interest. And then you be that example for the ones who trust you. And then ultimately they'll show up. Can you imagine? Just close your eyes for a minute and imagine 200,000 Black people of Chicago that are a part of its own independent Black voting bloc, collaborating with each other to deal with the inequities of our communities. Just imagine that. Let that sink in. Let it sink in. Imagine what that looks like. Imagine what that produces. See, this organization produces, but organization also produces. Being organized is, just as it says, arranging a systematic way, especially on a large scale. You even have what they call it organized crime. Organized crime, where it's systematically arranged on a large scale. Though it's counterproductive, though it's negative, that's what they call organized crime. Being organized, having affairs in order so as to deal with them efficiently. That's being organized. Coming together as a body of people to be an example to the rest of the diaspora. Now, guess what happened? Now, you know, you may know this and you may not. You know that when you have 100,000 signatures on any kind of petition, 100,000, that your government is mandated by law to respond. Now, with that being said, if we have 200,000 people, you see there's 20 neighborhoods, 20 areas of Chicago that the Black community is largely populated in. And let's assume that we got 10,000 people. We reached 10,000 people to be a part of coal. A part of the 10 by 10 to win. 10,000 from each ward. There are 20 wards that we are largely where we reside. There are also other wards on the north side that we reside, but these 20 wards are largely African American populated, Black populated. So 20 times 10 in math is 200,000 people. Imagine that, 200,000 people. Do you realize that 200,000 people will bring national implications, national attention, national respect? Certainly will bring local respect. But you and I, we have to make that decision. We have to make that decision. All right, 951-221-8221, 951-221-8221. Let's see who's in the queue. Welcome to the program. Who's this? Hello? Hello, who's this? Paul, how you doing? Oh, yes, you're on the show. What's your comment? Okay, all right. Thanks so much, Paul. All right, talk to you later. All right. Yeah, all right. Anybody else like to call in? It's telephone number is 951-221-8221. Listen, we welcome your comments. Let's see. Mike Berry, 6,000 Black organizations. 6,000. That's the number that I'm given. 6,000. It could be more, could be less, but it's very likely. It's very likely. Look, you realize that in the city of Chicago, we have more than 4,500 organized churches in Chicago, whether they have 5 members, 10 members, 200 members, 2,000, whatever. There are 4,500. It is not far-fetched that we could have 6,000 Black organizations. So now, again, Everybody has an area or an issue, and certainly people who are engaged and who care, that is important to you. That issue is important to the diaspora of the Black community. Whatever your issue is. Even election outcomes. If we're not happy with election outcomes, let me say this. We may not be, but there have been transformational policies that on the federal level that have been passed in this current administration that for many years to come are going to bring billions and billions of dollars of resources that are protected, that even the new administration can't undo. So there are going to be projects and investments that are going to be happening in 2025 and 2026 and 2027 and so forth and so on. There's more than $46 billion that are coming to the state of Illinois as a result of those four major pieces of legislation that was passed by the Biden-Harris administration, right? So what we must do is to make certain that we are organized to make sure that those dollars don't pass our communities by. Now, you hear these programs, or certainly you hear conversations where they talk about helping the children, right? Helping the children. And helping the children is important. Doing for our children, doing for our kids, and making sure that they have this, that, or the other. And that is true. But we have to make sure that we're also providing opportunity for the children's parents that need help, that are not getting the help that they need. Every day that we get up, we have to suit up to get out and to do those things that we need to do in order to making life better for others. You and I have got that power, but we don't have that power in isolation. We've got that power in numbers. And the more numbers we have, the stronger each one of us will be in order to make a difference for somebody else and into somebody else's life. And guess what? Even though that there are opposers and opposition and people who don't care about lifting our communities, as long as we care about it, we can make it happen. We can't get caught up to the paralysis of analysis of an election that has taken place, regardless of the outcome. We can't get caught up. We can't be distracted. We have to stay focused. We have to get and stay focused, because there will be another election, and we need to be ready and empowered so that we can impact that election, which is going to be a local election. So the next election that takes place is going to be a local, statewide election that we will either have power to impact because we have organized ourselves to do so, or we can just individually operate in our silos and, I guess, hope for the best. I would rather be intentional, deliberative, and deliberate, that we can decide on who, and we can make it happen then. That we can organize now so that we can, one, advocate, and two, we can organize to either replace people in public space or to support and challenge people who are in public spaces. One way or the other, we're going to be participating. I think we should want to participate to where we have demands that are met. We can organize. We need to organize. Let's organize. Let's, at the very next election, that we will be the ones as a body of an independent Black voting apparatus that will be known for its existence throughout the nation. Because I cannot stress to you, it has never been done before. That's nothing to brag about. That's very unfortunate that we've never institutionalized being an organized body. Oh, we have had some organizations, and we have some organizations. We have the Urban League. We have Rainbow Push. We have the National Action Network. We have a host of other organizations, but we have never organized an independent Black voting bloc anywhere, ever, which is absolutely what we need in order for us to be in the position to go out, to do what we need and what we demand, and to bring about the results. To do that, there's got to be a commitment on all of our parts to do that. We can't have the infighting. In fact, all of us should want to clear our heads of anything that would want to give us an excuse not to support each other. Because every participation, every participant strengthens the next just that much more. So every soul, every person, every voice is equally important to the mission. And, there are policies that are in place, right, that many of us disagree with. There are things that they're trying to do that will negatively impact our communities disproportionately to anybody else's communities. When they start to putting these regressive, restrictive policies in place, like, for instance, the city of Chicago is entertaining the idea of lowering the threshold or lowering the 30-mile-an-hour speed limit to 25-mile-an-hour speed limit. That fundamentally is going to disproportionately impact the Black community and poor people in particular, because what will happen is, since they're lowering the threshold, or certainly lowering the speed limit from 30 to 25, imagine speed limit on Stony Island being 25. And because they lower the speed limit to 25, that means that in areas where they have speed cameras, those limits get lowered by 5. So if the limit is 25, in those areas that are now 20 become 15. And your threshold for getting a ticket is 6 miles an hour. There will be tickets, violations on steroids that will impact the Black community as a whole. Now, to fight back against that and to reverse course on that, whoever it is that's proposing it, if we were organized in the numbers that we are discussing, we could push back on it. We could push back on that very thing, that policy that will disproportionately impact poor Black people in the city of Chicago. Because precisely that's what this is all about. This is about revenue. This is not about safety. It is not about safety. But I don't want to get into the weeds of that, because we will at another time, because what's important is that you and I have to be willing to get organized. We got to be willing to get organized. Talk to your brothers, your sisters, your friends, those that you collaborate with. Talk to them and ask them. I have it up on the screen. Text 10X10 to the number 855-909-1385 so that you can get into the text alert, and then you can receive the Zoom link meeting that comes out on Thursday, and you can participate in the meeting. Now, just by the mere example of when we do our general meeting on Thursdays, if we were to add more people to the meeting every week, it's a motivational sign to the group and to others that we are now having a weekly conversation or meeting of a synthesis, and the objective is to build ultimately a 1 million voting block of Black engaged voters. And the methodology is 10 by 10 to win. Imagine this. You can go to the page 10by10towin.org. But imagine this, that 10 people, the 10 people went out and got 10 people. And 10 times 10 is 100. And the 100 people went out to get 10, and now we have 1,000. And then the 1,000 goes out to get 10. We now have 10,000. That's just 3 times over. 100 times 10. I'm sorry, 10 times 10 is 100. 100 times 10 is 1,000. 1,000 times 10 is 10,000. That's 3 times. And then the 10,000 times 10 goes out and gets 10. We now have 100,000. And then the 100,000 does it one more time, a 5th time. We are now 1 million people that we've touched. 1 million people that we've touched. Now, we can get there. But the first measure is let's get to 100,000. Well, no, the first measure is let's get to 10,000. Can we do that? Let's get to 10,000. And then the next measure is let's increase it by 10. When we get to those numbers, it is going to bring attention from other like-minded people that we can engage in conversation. We go to them and say, look, this is what the plan is. The plan is to build our own infrastructure of a political process that we're able to use our political arm to challenge the status quo, to challenge people who are in the system that the system has ignored what's pertinent and important to our communities. Now, you cannot be people who are afraid. Afraid of what? There are literally some people who are afraid, who seem to think that people in political public positions are like boogeymen. That could not be further from the truth. The real fact is that they fear you, not the other way around. Why? They fear you, and they don't want, in some cases, for you to be as informed or as engaged. Because if you are, that means that there's a little more light on them and a little bit more accountability on them. So therefore, because there's accountability on them, therefore, they have to perform. They have to produce. So there's no reason to be to be afraid. Now, you're either going to be a worrier or you're going to be a warrior. You're going to be a warrior or you're going to be a warrior. A warrior is timid and stands back. A warrior stands erect and goes forward. Or you can be a watcher, somebody who stands on the sideline and just watch. All you have to do is step in. You can watch, but you will be a strong participator because you stepped in. So are you going to be one of those who worries? Or are you going to be one of those who is a warrior? I contend that we will all be warriors. We will participate in providing the success of organizing ourselves together, collaborating for the success of our community. Now, is that saying everybody in our community is going to be rich? Yeah, in a sense. And this is what I mean by that. That we should not rest in making sure that everybody who wants a job, everybody who wants a career has an access to it, everybody who wants an education can get it, that it's available to them. That's what success is. That's what our real accomplishments are on every front. And we can do that without overtaxing anybody if we complete the assignment of organizing ourselves together and compelling others to do that. Not about lifting any one person on a pedestal or anything like that. This is about lifting all of our communities by making sure that people have access. I mean, we have 47% unemployment in November of 2024 of black males in Chicago between the ages of 18 and 25. They're unemployed and they're out of school. Their white male counterparts on the north side of Chicago, same demographic, 7% unemployed or out of school. There is a huge disparity in how people are legislating towards that group of people. And you know why they're not legislating toward them? Because they don't talk to them. They talk about them. They don't talk to them. They don't go to where they are. I contend that's part of the problem. What happened with the Democrats? I'm a Democrat. The Democratic Party. I contend that's part of the reason that 16 million people decided to go nowhere. 16 million people who voted in the last election did not vote in this election. Okay? So part of the reason that happened, that nobody's talking about, that there's a certain group of people that the campaigns, that the party, that the representatives don't talk to. And it's not, as they were playing this out, it's not people who are just in barbershops, because the people that I'm talking about don't even go pretty much to barbershops. The people I'm talking about are people that don't have any, particular place that they just go to. And I'm talking about meeting them right where they are and asking the very simple question: how do you think we would be able to help improve your life? That question is not asked and was not asked of a bunch of young men who were not in traditional spaces. The point that I'm making is that we should hit every one of those non-traditional spaces. Let us, 10 by 10 to win, let us go talk to them. Let us go listen to them. Let's hear what they have to say. And as a result of hearing what they have to say, we can share an alternative. We can share a path by which they can participate in and impact. When you talk to people and you give people the opportunity and you certainly express to people their importance to the process, have them understand that they have value, that there's a place for them. They weren't seeking you. You went and recognized that they exist. So what you did is you affirmed to them that somebody recognizes them and that they exist. 48%, 47% unemployment, black males 18 to 25, out of work and out of school. I contend that that is a large block of people. The electorate, the poor, we don't hear the poor talked about in campaigns. They don't even talk about the poor. All we heard about is the middle class, the middle class, the middle class. Yes, we want for the middle class to be strong. What about the poor? They represent more than 42% of the entire electorate of the United States of America. 42%. Yet nobody speaks to them. Nobody speaks to the poor. I don't know. I'm no political scientist, no political expert. What do I know? But I tell you this, many of those people didn't go vote because some of them said, why should I go vote? You know what that's saying to me? It's basically saying to me, nobody demonstrated to them their power and their value. Nobody. The campaign, in its complete elitist fashion, overlooked, recklessly ignored a body of people, and those people responded by not responding. We shouldn't do that. As 10 by 10 to win, building the infrastructure for the voice and the voices of Black people to be strengthened, we should never get to the point to where anyone that we make no effort to reach them. We should never become that complacent. So I tell you that we can get on and we can talk about all of these different things that happen. And I had a whole list of stories that I had prepared for. But something told me to have these discussions, to continue to have these series of discussions to us, to get us to think about this over and over and over again. Because there are plenty of people who are going to be having conversations about any number of things, reporting about any number of things. What I have got to do, what I feel that and think that I am compelled to do, is to talk to us about proactive things that we must do in order to change the trajectory of our existence in our communities. And that must come through us and by us. It's not coming by anybody else. It's not coming by an alderman. It's not coming by a mayor. It's not coming by a governor. It's not coming by a state representative. It's not coming by a state senator. It's not coming by a commissioner. It's not coming by anybody without coming by us, because they are only going to perform based on how we perform. How we perform. We are equally responsible. So I am saying to you, what's going on here? What I'm saying to you is that, okay, so what I'm saying to you is that I'm asking you now. I'm asking you to reach out right now. Those of you who are online, call somebody, tell them just to come on and engage this conversation for just a few minutes. Just a few minutes. And then those of us who are on right now commit to ourselves that we together are going to collaborate. We're going to work together. Now, I've got some phone calls to return this week, and we're going to talk. I have your number, and we're going to talk this week, starting tomorrow. I'm going to be calling. We're going to collaborate. We're going to commit ourselves one to the other and to the group. Now, I call it, in another way, a union of black voters. The reason why I use that, because union, is derivative of unite, and union also exemplifies organized body of people. What makes union strong, one, is that there are a body of people, a large body of people, systematically organized. The other thing that makes them organized is that they educate their people on the issues so that they have the facts. So this program will continuously provide you with information that will empower us as we become more informed about those things that are important to us. Thirdly, unions are so powerful because they're organized, because they're informed, and thirdly, because they engage. And as a result of engaging, they are able to make demands and requirements, and many of those demands are met. Now we have an organization called the Chicago Teachers Union, which I support. I support Chicago Teachers Union. Why? Because I support teachers. And I believe that every educator should be compensated well, very well. I don't think any teacher should be earning less than $100,000 a year, period. No teacher should have to worry about do they have enough materials in their classroom that they have to go out and use their own materials. That is what I call resource deprivation. Now, back to why I call it a union. And guess what? We have more people that we could have the biggest union of a powerful voting bloc than the Chicago Teachers Union. There's 30,000 members there. There's over 1.5 million of us just in the Cook County area. Not to mention in all of the areas over over Illinois, where we exist. If we made this just as powerful here, just as strong here, if all of us came together with that commitment of reaching out into our circles, our clusters, where our people are, if we made that role, and I submit to you that if you decide that you want to have a meeting someplace, you want to organize a meeting, whether it's in some church or organization or community resource area, wherever you are, and you want for me to come to participate in that, all we have to do is put it on the schedule. Let's get it on the schedule, and then we can start to do that, and that we can continue to start to organize that way. I mean, that's the way that the Teamsters and all these people they went around having meetings and telling people and showing people why this was important, why this was empowering. And that's what we have to do, is go to where people are. Go to where people are. Talk to them, listen to them. That's what you and I have to do. That's what these series of conversations are going to be about. How we organize power. Our power is our work. You heard that in the step down uh, music throughout the promo. I saw a Netflix special called Project Power. And part of the soundtrack was a song by a young lady by the name of Chika called My Work is My Power. Our work is our power. Our power is our collectivism. When we are collective, when we deliberately determine that we are going to be a collected body working together for the advancement of our people, it becomes easier for us to make gains. It becomes easy of us to push the car down the street. Now, if your car stopped and you got out and you try to push your car, it's going to be pretty heavy by yourself. Another person came along to help you push the car, it gets a little bit lighter. It gets a little bit easier for you to push. A little bit. Somebody else come along, stand on the side, opens the door and push, gets easier for everybody to push. And you're moving it, the car's moving, doesn't even seem like we're really. Somebody else comes along, grabs one end, hey, starts pushing. A couple more people come along, starts pushing, you could almost put your finger on it. Why? Because you have a multiplicity of people moving in the same direction. That is the exact same thing about every issue. It is a car. It is a vehicle that needs to be pushed. And in order for it to be pushed, in order for us to get it down the road, it's going to take many of us to participate together to produce what we know we need to have produced for our communities. That's what this is all about. That's how we make progress. We will not make progress by measure, by continuing to repeat the same engagement individually that we have. Individualism is a toxic cancer for our community. It is not the recipe for us to advance and for us to succeed on behalf of the issues from education to economics. This is not about a person, a individual person. That's not what this is. This is about a bunch of us individuals coming together, being collective, being empowered, and demonstrating to ourselves exactly what the power of collaboration is. Because we've never demonstrated it to ourselves. We have never demonstrated it to ourselves. We talk about it, we discuss it, we suggest it, but we have never demonstrated it to ourselves. Because if we had demonstrated it to ourselves, we would continue to be doing it because we will see the results of it. We just haven't seen the results of it. You know why we haven't seen the results of it? Is because we have not committed to it. We have not done it. We now can do it. We now know what the apparatus is, and we now know just how simple it can be. I'm not trying to oversimplify it, but I'm simply saying that the fact is that we can mobilize ourselves together, push that car down the road, push that educational car down the road, push that economic car down the road, push that healthcare problem down the road, push the mental health car down the road, and make them respond to the needs of our communities. That is precisely what organizing and collaboration looks like. You and I agreeing that we are going to be together on this. Everybody in, nobody out. Everybody in equally and nobody out. And we will be able to, by measure, see what the role of collaboration together looks like. Nothing can defeat that. Nothing. Even if there are enemies that may want to take somebody out, maybe we grow in such a way that there's some sick individual that thinks that they can cut the head off. But under this, we're institutionalized it so that the institution of the collaboration of building an independent voting bloc is not based on one person. It's based on the institution, and the institution cannot be killed because it keeps regenerating itself. And it keeps regenerating itself. That is what it does. So they come after one person, we have several 100,000. And the several 100,000 chooses someone to guide the ship. As long as we keep that infrastructure in place, it cannot be defeated. Cannot be defeated. You will see the accomplishments in all of the areas, from education to economics, that we have not seen in decades. We will begin to see how those things will transform rather quickly over a period of time, whether it be 6 months, whether it be a year, 2 years. We'll be able to make demands, and those demands will be met. And we can strengthen every sector of our community. And as we are strengthening the sectors of our communities, as we are strengthening the lives of people in our communities, as we are making sure that they have an opportunity to get an access to a good paying job where they're earning $90,000, $100,000 a year, being able to buy a car, take their family on a vacation, buy a home, save money to be able to send their children to college, to be able to pay for health care, and to be able to work an 8-hour day, 40 hours a week, and come home to be with his or her family or both. And certainly to share time with their children. All of that through our collaborative power and commitment. Collectively, we will be able to achieve. All right, look, that's going to do it for tonight. I want to thank every one of you for sticking with us, and come back next week. We're going to continue this series, having a conversation. I got a phone call today from someone who has been studying nutrition and our health as it relates to nutrition, and he wants to come on and to help us to understand how they uh, the way that food is being processed is causing the kinds of illnesses that we are experiencing and that we are witnessing. And he wants to come on and have that conversation because he also contends that there is some issues with people who are trained in medicine that say that doctors that say that 60% of our health depends upon our diet. So we're going to have that conversation. So I'm going to have a doctor on, and then I'm going to have Brother Gill on, and Brother Gill is going to share what his findings are versus the thoughts of someone in the medical field, and this debate will go back and forth. So it will be very interesting. We're going to do that hopefully next week. So make sure that you join me next week for another edition of the People Show right here on intellectualradio.com, on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. Next week, at the same time. Now and we may be doing some specials, some special podcasts that may be in addition to our regular Monday night program to deal with this issue, because I think it is, and I know that you do know that it is vital to the success of our communities. It is vital. It is critical that we abandon individualism and embrace a united path for our community. Period. All right, that's going to do it for me tonight. I want to thank all of you for joining me. I want to thank you, Mike Burries. Thank you. I'm going to be able to pronounce that D. Narad. I think that is it. D. Narad Gibson. Thank you very much for coming on to the program. I want to thank Paul for joining the program. And then please like and share on our YouTube page so that we can increase our participation over there and increase our viewership over there. And obviously, the more that we can get people to tuning in, the more that we can grow the audience of the program, and then we can move forth our mission and our agenda. The more, the merrier. All right, I want to thank you all for tuning into the program. That's going to do it for this week's edition, the Monday night edition of the People Show on intellectualradio.com, on Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Instagram. Thank you all so much for tuning into the program. We'll see you next time.